And now to Washington's potential drought emergency. Do we have one? The State Department of Ecology says they are forecasting the potential for a drought emergency based on low snowpack, while UW professor of atmospheric sciences Cliff Mass is basically calling that a bunch of bunk. He put up a new blog post on Monday, the 18th, basically, saying it's simply and demonstrably false. Um, he describes it this way. He says, like a vampire, the drought claims cannot be killed so easily. So I want to share part of my conversation this morning with Cliff Mass, again, atmospheric sciences professor at the University of Washington.
But
For
there's
some,
never been a situation where the reservoirs were completely full and there was a problem for agriculture in the Yakima Valley. If the reservoirs are full, and they are full, and they're going to remain full for a little while, there's never been, if you look historically, there's never been a problem. And the snowpack is for earlier in the summer and for filling the reservoirs, but the reservoirs are full. And so the facts are so damn clear. I mean, the irrigation in eastern Washington is from two main sources. One is the Columbia and one is the Yakima. Okay. The largest area is the Columbia. Well, everybody knows admits the Columbia is fine. Okay. All the flow predictions, everything is fine for the Columbia. And that's because the snowpack and precipitation was fine in the drainage area in British Columbia and in Canada, right? So Columbia is fine. That means plenty of water for irrigation for most of the irrigation in eastern Washington, and plenty of water for power. Okay, plenty for water for fish in the Columbia. Okay, that's not a problem. No problem, right? So, and the reservoirs on the west side are all full. Okay, so they can't do that. So what they're fixated on is the Yakima, right? That's why the Yakima is the one they're talking about, right? And so, but the trouble for them, or their argument, is that the reservoirs are absolutely topped off for the Yakima. And the truth is that the melt of the snowpack provides water in May and the first part of June. But during the middle end of summer, where they really need the water, it's the reservoirs.
right.
I mean, and they can't argue around this. They really can't. And so there will be no problem because those reservoirs are full. It's as simple as that.
Now, at the conclusion of Mass's blog post from Monday, he wrote this. He said, in summary, the drought emergency declaration by Washington state should be dropped immediately. Washington state residents deserve accurate information. Washington agriculture should not be undermined by ill-advised, unscientific declarations. Now, on the flip side of this, definitely the opposite completely of where Cliff Mass comes down on the drought emergency is Karen Bumbaco. She is the deputy state climatologist at the UW. And I spoke with her as well this morning. And she says, yes, in fact, the reservoirs, as Mass, you just heard him say there, the reservoirs are full and things look pretty good right now. But she explained to me that the way it works is they basically had to put out a warning about the potential for a drought emergency.
Washington state has a drought definition written into state law. And so part of that definition is whether conditions are anticipated to become less than 75% of normal for water supply. I can rephrase that. I think what I'm trying to say is that the drought definition that's written into state law allows for the drought to be declared before conditions are really being felt, right? So part of it is to prepare for conditions that might be coming later in the spring and summer, and that's exactly what the state has done. So I agree with him in the sense that current conditions right now at this very moment look good. We're under overcast skies. We've had a little bit of a rainy period. Our reservoirs are full. But what we're looking at is how we expect things to get worse over the spring and summer. So, I mean, we know for sure that the reduced water supply in and of itself is an issue. So right now, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation is estimating that the total water supply available for May through September is only 52% of a normal allotment for the junior water users. So, that in and of itself is an impact in my view. The senior water users, absolutely. So far, things are looking fine for them with 100% of their water supply. But I actually was just chatting with some folks from the Rosa Irrigation District earlier this week, and they're still expecting to turn off irrigation water for potentially about 10 days or so starting this week. And they're expecting that their irrigation season will end about 3 weeks early. So there will very much be impacts for junior water users. Last year, it actually impacted senior water users. So for the first time in I guess since ecology has been tailing water, so they actually curtailed senior water users in October, which was an unprecedented decision at that time because those reservoirs were so low by the end of last year's water season. So there is evidence that even senior water users can be impacted.
And again, Mass says there has been no scenario in state history where we have full reservoirs this time of year, and then we end up with, a drought situation and devastating impacts on the egg community. So, as far as he is concerned, this is being pushed by the Department of Ecology and others, basically as part of the climate crisis agenda. Now, related to this, scientists today came out and said they are scaling back their worst case scenario for how hot the world might get from climate change. So, what changes are scientists making? This is from the New York Times today. I want to put up part of what they listed. It said researchers said a worst case climate scenario that's been used in science and policy making for more than a decade had, quote, become implausible and would be revised downward. That hothouse scenario assumed the highest realistic future greenhouse gas emissions. It predicted that by the end of the century, global average temperatures could rise by 5 degrees Celsius or 9 degrees Fahrenheit over pre industrial levels. Now, the article went on to say that though they're revising, how hot it's going to get, quite a bit down from what they were saying a decade ago, the sky is falling. It's not that their predictions were so wrong, they say, but that investments made in renewable energies are paying off. So you can make up your own mind about that. Remember here in the state of Washington, we've been waiting for the Department of Ecology to give us updated emissions, basically success for our climate goals. And those numbers are far behind, really not seeing any current data here in the state of Washington for the investments that we're making, like with the CCA and the reason why your gas prices are in part so high. So again, you take that to mean what you take that to mean, and weigh that. I encourage you to check out our articles at the Center Square Washington page for both of these articles today. And that concludes today's episode of Washington in Focus Daily for this Tuesday, May 19th. Thanks for watching, and we hope you'll join us again tomorrow.